Okay, level check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer. We are seconds away from going live. All I've got to do is get the weather computer monitor up here, and we will be ready for it. But we have basically really steamy weather out there this evening, but it's not going to last long. By this time tomorrow, we're talking about some great weather moving into the tri-state for a 4-day stay. Okay, so almost ready for you. It is literally mind-boggling how many different connections and buttons you have to push to get this going. Okay, so hi everybody, this is meteorologist Steve Horstmeyer coming to you from the streaming center at Fox 19 Now. That is our view from Turfway Park. You're looking out across CVG. Now I'll show you, you can tell, here's the control tower right next to this light pole. Here's the control tower right here. And you can see some nice cumulus clouds with a few showers out there. Not everybody got some rainfall. A few people got quite a bit. Others didn't get any at all. And it's that same story we have in the summer, hit and miss showers and thunderstorms around the tri-state. Everybody is on the steamy side right now, but the humidity is going to drop off, and we've got some very, very nice weather on its way on into the tri-state. So let's go ahead and take a look at our other camera. Now, for some reason, this one's having trouble connecting, and that's just started happening in the past couple of days. And overall, I'm just going to skip that camera. We'll go to our live tower camera. This is a view of TQL Stadium, where FC Cincinnati plays Chicago starting at 7:30. So people are already settled. In 13 minutes on the pitch, they're going to get soccer underway at TQL Stadium. So it's an amazing rise. TQL Stadium, the home of FC Cincinnati, who went from an expansion team to one of the best soccer teams in Major League Soccer around the tri-state. So overall, I just had to close the door there, some noise going on out there. Overall, a steamy evening to be out there watching soccer. Okay, high temperatures today look like this. Now remember, this is preliminary data. The official high won't come in until about 8 o'clock. That's on daylight savings time. That corresponds to 00 midnight Greenwich, England time. So 88 at CVG, 89 at Lunkin. I don't see anybody there in the 90s. 89 at Lunkin seems to be the highest, but I do remember seeing some temperatures actually warmer than 90 as we headed through the day. So when the official temperatures come in, we will, I'm sure, see some that are definitely warmer than that. Okay, here's radar, and you can see the shower and thunderstorm activity. Now, right on from the beginning, there is no severe weather in the area. We do not expect severe weather. We do not expect flooding rains. As a matter of fact, it's trying to come to an end pretty quickly. We'll zoom in a little bit here, and you see that line of showers that's falling apart, okay? This line right here. Now notice it's a pretty solid line, and then this area just kind of falls apart. That's the cool front. Okay, now a front is a dividing line, and it's just like if you take oil and water, they don't mix readily. Well, colder air and warmer air don't mix very quickly either, okay? And the boundary between the two is the front. So when a front comes through, you go from one air mass to the other. And the interesting thing about a front is that in some cases, the transition can take a long time. In other words, on the warm side of the front, you gradually transition over hours to the air that's behind the front. Sometimes in winter, it only takes a few minutes because they're a lot less narrow. But the front here, we'll have to wait several hours. By tomorrow morning, it'll feel less humid. By this time tomorrow, it's going to be delightful out there. There's no doubt about that. Okay, so you can see the shower and thunderstorm activity kind of dying out as it moves to the south and east. We still have some heavier rainfall around the area. I zoomed into the southeastern corner of our viewing area, so from just east of Brooksville in the Maysville area, across the river into the southeastern part of Brown County. It's already to the southeast of Georgetown. West Union, as we speak, getting a little bit of heavier rain right now. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at in the West Union area. The darker spots are the heavier rainfall, so let's try right there, just north of West Union. That's falling at a rate of 1 inch an hour. To the south in Lewis County, not far from Kinnickinnick, that is 1.44 inches an hour. So if it's falling at the rate of 1 inch an hour and it's over you for a tenth of an hour, that'd be 6 minutes, you would get, you would get 1/10 of an inch of rainfall. Okay, and so the heaviest rainfall looks to me, let's go back to the full screen, down here in Lewis County, not far from Vanceburg. Okay, and that is coming down at the rate of 1.91 inches an hour. So if you're under that for 6 minutes, you'd get almost a quarter inch of rainfall. So it's coming down at a pretty good clip right there. And there is more rain out there, but that's the heaviest that's showing up. So a good portion of southern Adams County getting a good soaking rain, and a number of viewers, I'm sure, are happy about that because you've mentioned to me quite a bit that Adams County is very, very dry. Okay, airport temperatures. These are temperatures as of 7 p.m. 73 in Richmond. Notice where it rained. Okay, Madison, we've got from Madison to Falmouth, to CVG, to Lunken, to Batavia's airport, temperatures in the 70s, but in the 80s elsewhere. Now, earlier we had, it was like 76 at CVG and it was 90 at Lunken Airport. So that can happen in a short distance, but the rain does cool things. And the way that rain cooling works is mainly through evaporation. So the raindrops are falling out of the cloud, and some of those raindrops evaporate. That absorbs heat from the air. In other words, to do the work of evaporation, you've got to use some energy, and that's the heat in the air. And we call it the downdraft temperature. And when you're studying severe thunderstorms, it's pretty important parameter to know. And you've all felt that. I mean, you felt the cool air that comes out of a thunderstorm. You're standing there, and you hear the thunder off in a distance. You see that rain shaft getting closer. The winds pick up suddenly. It's a gust, and you go from temperatures maybe in the 90s to the 70s, and you can feel that definite cooling. Well, the downdraft temperature is a measure, approximate measure. Oh, excuse me, got an itch here. It's an approximate measure of how much the air can be cooled by evaporation of water into it. And so if you have a downdraft temperature of 80 and it's 85 outside, that's not a big deal. But if you have a downdraft temperature of 58 and the temperature is 80, that tells you that that air can get a lot cooler. Now what happens as the raindrops evaporate and it cools that air, it becomes more dense. And so the bigger the difference between the downdraft temperature, that temperature attained by evaporating water drops as the air descends with the water drops, the bigger the difference between the downdraft temperature and the actual air temperature, the greater the density difference and the stronger the downdraft can be. And you might wonder, well, where does the downdraft come from? We know why it gets cool now because of raindrops that evaporate. Well, literally, there's two reasons that we get a downdraft. One is that before there's any evaporation, when the first raindrops start falling, each little raindrop, no matter how small they are, pushes a little air ahead of it. And if you've got trillions and trillions and trillions of raindrops coming out of a thunderstorm, each pushing a little bit of air, that's a lot of air that it can push. Okay, so they start the downdraft by the airdrops literally falling out of the cloud, pushing air ahead of them. And then as some of those raindrops evaporate, the downdraft gets even stronger and faster because of increased density as the air evaporates some of those raindrops into it. Okay, and then the other thing you might wonder is, like, how big are the biggest raindrops? Well, if you take a look at it, it typically is about 5 millimeters in diameter. Okay, 25.4 millimeters to the inch, so somewhere around 1/4 of an inch is usually the biggest raindrop you're going to find. And you wonder why that? Well, because what holds it together, if you look at a raindrop looks like a little Mickey Mouse head. Okay, there's the hydrogen atoms here, which would be the ears, and then of course the round part, the face, is the oxygen atom. And because the hydrogen atoms share their electron with the oxygen atom, you have a slight positive charge on the ear ends and a slight negative charge opposite that. And so you can have water drops. So here's a water drop, positive, negative, and then negative and positive, they tend to attract each other, the opposite charges. And so what holds together a water drop is that electrostatic force of the mutual attraction of the water drops. Because one end of a water molecule is positively charged, the other end is slightly negatively charged. the negatives and positives attract each other, and that force, that electrostatic charge and attraction holds the water drops together. Well, that force that holds them together through the difference in the negative and the positive is only so strong, and research has shown that once a raindrop gets to about 1/4 inch, it begins to break up under its own weight. In other words, gravity is stronger than the attracting forces between molecules and that. And so typically you'll get big raindrops, but the big ones, once they splat, if you stop them, take a picture or stop them or somehow capture them, you'd find out they're only about 1/4 inch in diameter. And then the other interesting thing you'll notice, okay, so we've covered why there's a downdraft, why the downdraft gets cooler, why, and the cooler it gets, the stronger the downdraft is. We've covered the biggest size of raindrops, and then the other thing that you find interesting is why do thunderstorms tend to start off with big raindrops, and then as the thunderstorm gets going and the rain's really going, you end up only with smaller raindrops, and that's because of turbulence. Because as the raindrops fall, each one has a little wake turbulence, and if you take trillions and trillions of water drops and they fall, there's a lot of turbulence there, and it's usually enough to break up those water drops, because they're getting to be about 1/4 inch, about as big as the electric charge forces can hold together, and so they break up fairly easily. So downdraft starts because of falling raindrops. The downdraft increases because some of those raindrops evaporate. That cools the air, makes it more dense, and it accelerates even more under the force of gravity. The raindrops themselves peak at about 1/4 inch. Now that's not exact. You'll find them a little, but about 1/4 inch, because that's about as strong as the electrical attraction force is between the water molecules that make up the raindrop. And once you get to about 1/4 inch, gravity and turbulence tend to be stronger than the electrostatic charge force, and so those raindrops tend to break up. Okay, and then as the thunderstorm progresses, you get the very first raindrops tend to be big, and they splat and make those almost silver dollar sized splats. Once the thunderstorm really gets going, you get all those trillions of raindrops falling. There's a lot of turbulence in there, and that turbulence breaks up the bigger raindrops, so they all come down to earth as smaller raindrops once the thunderstorm gets going. Okay, I got carried away. Let's get back to weather. So there are the airport temperatures. Okay, airport heat index values still in the upper 70s and lower 80s. Oxford still at 88 degrees. But overall, it's just a really, really, really muggy evening out there, and I am happy to say that we've got a nice change coming our way for tomorrow. Okay, now take a look at this. Oops, I wanted to be on screen. Okay, this lighter band here is the edge, the really sticky air, okay? And notice we're inside of that, so this is all the really humid Gulf of Mexico tropical air. We're right on the edge of it, so let's watch what happens. I'm going to give you a full screen again, put this into motion, and watch as that really sticky air heads southward. Now it's down into Tennessee, and you see the blue that's coming into our region. That's that nice, less humid air out of Canada. That's Thursday morning, so in just a few hours, we begin to feel that the big change here. And we put that back into motion. Okay, into Friday afternoon, we're still in the blue. Okay, as we head on into Friday evening and Saturday, the stickier stuff's getting a little closer, and then by Sunday at 7 p.m., we're kind of on the edge of somewhat stickier air. The dew point temperatures by Sunday afternoon should be back to around 60. That's far from being really oppressive and sultry, but research has shown that around a dew point of 60, people become aware of the humidity beginning to increase and becoming less comfortable, but it's certainly not sultry. Okay, so that's Sunday at 7 p.m. Then as we head on into Monday, notice, oops, it's back. It's kind of flirting with us, but there you see it. As we head through next week, we've got much more humidity back in here. But we've got a nice break coming our way for a while. So this evening, the sun sets at 9:03. It's 77 right now. By 11 p.m., we drop to about 74. Now, what I wanted to mention to you is when we put these forecasts together, and we have scattered showers and thunderstorms, you can never really tell exactly where the shower is going to be 10 hours ahead of time. And so this 84 was the temperature if it didn't rain. Well, it dropped it into the 70s, and so we might bounce back up a couple degrees here before that, but by 11 o'clock, we'll be at 74. Just an hour ago, we were at 74, so we've already bounced up to 77. We might bounce back up to about 82 since the rain is over, but by the time we get to 11 o'clock, we're looking at a very sticky 74 degrees out there. Okay, overnight, the sun's coming up at 6:26. The overnight low 62. Now, the humidity won't be completely comfortable, but it'll certainly be noticeably better as you head out the door tomorrow morning. And so for the morning commute, dry roads, skies will be in the progress of clearing. The humidity will be lower. You'll feel that, and temperatures will be in the low to mid 60s. There will be a few spots tomorrow morning. Remember, the cooler air is going to get here in our northwestern counties first. So if you're in Connersville, Liberty, if you're up, let's say, Oxford, if you're in College Corner, maybe even Batesville and Greensburg, Indiana, you'll notice the lower humidity more than we will here, and you'll see some spots with temperatures in the upper 50s. So, and then it progresses across the viewing area. So once again, the overnight low 62, the high tomorrow 79. With that 79 comes a heat index of 79. So it's going to be very nice tomorrow afternoon. Climate Prediction Center says we've been talking about that cooler than normal weather through the center part of the country, and it's going to be there again right here in the Fox 19 Now viewing area. We're kind of on the border of cooler than normal and near normal. That's through the 27th. Through the 31st, we're looking at near normal weather temperature-wise in the Fox 19 Now viewing area. And they're holding with, excuse me for a second, I've got to take a quick drink. Okay, so through the 27th, slightly wetter than normal. The Climate Prediction Center has been holding with that for quite a while. And that kind of stays through the 31st. So we should end up with temperatures a little bit cooler or near normal through the rest of the month and slightly more precipitation than normal. And remember, we've been talking about this for weeks now, but when the temperatures are well above normal, you need above normal rainfall to keep up with it. The soil dries out faster, the plants transpire more when it's hot. When you don't have that, when you have near normal or cooler than normal weather, you don't need as much rain to keep the balance up. So it looks like we're in a better situation than we have been most of the summer. Okay, so here's your 7-day forecast. I'll give it to you full screen again. 62 tonight's low, 79 the high tomorrow, 59 and 80 on Friday. Friday, a nice day. Saturday, a nice day with a high of 84. Excuse me. Sunday, a high of 86 as we begin to warm up and begin to get a little bit more humid. So let's take a look. First of all, I've prepared a couple graphs here. Here's the graph for the dew point temperatures Thursday and Friday. Whenever you have dew point temperatures like this in the 50s, that's very, very comfortable. Okay. It's when the dew point hits 60, everybody begins to feel it, and almost everybody says, you know, it kind of feels humid out here. When the dew point makes it to 65, almost everybody says, yeah, it's a little bit humid. When the dew point hits 70, virtually everybody says, oh, it is nasty out here. In Cincinnati, we've had a dew point as high as 80 a couple times, and that's just unbelievable. That's like being down in the Amazon jungle. So for Thursday and Friday, notice dew point temperatures in the 50s. We even see low 50s, right around 50 degrees during the afternoon hours of Friday. And that means there'll be some spots out there that have the dew point drop into the 40s. So this is delightful weather for Thursday and for Friday. And that's, I think we've earned it, to tell you the truth. Okay, and so there it is again. Look at those dew point temperatures. Very, very nice. Okay? Well, then what about the weekend? I've got another graph for you. Here it is, and again, it's the same graph with different days on it. So this is for Saturday and Sunday now. Dew point still in the 50s, but it begins to tick up a little bit here late in the day on Saturday. On Sunday, we've got the dew points going back up to 60 in the afternoon, and then maybe 63 by 8 p.m. So in the morning, you're going to wake up, it feels fine. You're going to kind of notice the humidity as we head through the day on Sunday. And then when the dew point hits 63, I think everybody's going to kind of feel it. And that sets us up for more humid weather that I showed you on that animated map with the more humid air moving back into the tri-state. So for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, each day warm and humid. Notice not really hot. We're not in the 90s, but we have 85 and 82 for the high temperatures for the 3 days. And the humidity high enough that it'll be uncomfortable and enough humidity to set off a few showers and thunderstorms. Okay, then for beyond the 7-day forecast, high temperatures in the low 80s from the 25th right on through the 28th, if you count 85 as the low half of the 80s. Then for Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, the last 3 days of the month, High temperatures make it back up into the upper 80s. It's going to be fairly humid each day of this 7-day stretch, not necessarily oppressively or dangerously humid, but certainly enough that it won't be comfortable. And each day of that 7-day stretch has the chance for a pop-up shower. Right now, we're not looking at anything severe in that 7-day stretch. We're just looking at some pop-up shower and thunderstorm activity. And again, that far out, I mean, we're looking 14 days ahead. It could change. Okay, now here's a summary graphic for you. High temperatures, low temperatures, the normal high line. Look at how many days there are cooler than normal on the high temperature graph and the low temperature graph. So we look at this, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 out of 14 cooler than normal. Not by a lot, just a little bit cooler than normal, but definitely cooler than normal. So we have a stretch of slightly cooler than normal high temperatures. The low temperatures, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, just 4 cooler than normal, and the rest at or above normal. So overall, it adds up to, if you would average all these out, very close to normal for the 14-day stretch, which takes us to the very last day of the month. So we are definitely talking about a difference than what we've been having with the really hot temperatures and high humidity. Okay, time to switch cameras. Now I'm on this one. Did that pretty smoothly today. Let's go now to Facebook. Again, we still don't have it set up so that we can take comments from YouTube. And let's see who has what to say. All right, so start off with Andrew James. Says hello, watching from Fairfax. Again, Andrew, you're my neighbor. Someday I might see you out there. I live on Erie in Madisonville, and oftentimes I ride my bicycle to work here in Queensgate, and so I ride down the Murray Road bike trail and then through Marymount and to the bike trail over by the golf course. Garnet Rothwell, Adams County watching live. Facebook and Roku are coming through loud and clear. All right, thank you. And you know, Garnet, whenever we've had Roku problems, it's not been a Roku problem, it's been a Steve problem. I forgot usually to push a button, but today I remembered them all, so I'm glad to hear, and thank you for letting me know that, because that's important that we know, because if it was some issue that we couldn't figure out, I have to turn it over to our engineering staff. Okay? Okay, and Garnet Rothwell said the rain just started at 7:17, so that's about 20 minutes ago, and that's I talked for a long time today, obviously, you know that. And Garnet, I hope you get as much rain as you need, because it's going to dry out for a few days now, but then next week we've got more chances of rainfall coming in. Okay, Melvin Stone Street said, hey, Steve, it's going to be nice this week. Yes, it is. Starting tomorrow afternoon, much lower humidity, should be great. Even in the morning, you're going to feel it's going to feel better. So, okay, question from Garnet Rothwell. What causes the difference? Just a second. I can't grab it. Okay. Okay, yes. He wants to know what causes the difference between large and small raindrops, and does downdraft play a part? Yes. Okay, now, generally what happens if you've got a rain that's forming in a very moist air mass, so if you've got a lot of moisture, not only at the surface but up through the column, then you've got enough water for large raindrops to grow, okay? And they typically keep growing and growing and growing, but once the downdraft begins, in other words, once there's enough raindrops, there's enough water loading up there in that updraft, and they start to fall in mass and push the downdraft. And so literally the downdraft starts because raindrops start falling, and each of those little raindrops pushes the air down. Okay? And so at the start, the raindrops are big, and a raindrop is a raindrop because water molecules that make up the raindrops have electrical charges. And if you look at it, I don't have a diagram of it here, but if you look it up, a water molecule, H2O, one hydrogen, two H2O, and two oxygen, sorry, H2, I got myself confused, 2 hydrogen and 1 oxygen. And so the big one is the oxygen, which is the Mickey Mouse head, and then the Mickey Mouse ears up here are the hydrogen. So the hydrogen only has 1 electron, so it shares that electron with the oxygen, and since that means there's less of a negative charge on the ear ends, there's more of a negative charge on the face end, so you tend to have a slight positive charge up here and a slight negative charge on the bigger oxygen molecule. And the difference there, the difference between the negative end and the positive end means that water molecules can stick together. Okay, in other words, the ears will line up with the face, and they'll be stuck together by the force of the electrostatic attraction. Now, what's interesting about this, I'm going to go off on a tangent here for a second, is the fact that water molecules have opposite charges at either end of the water molecule, and they can attract each other, is also why water makes it what they call the universal solvent. So if you wonder why water melts salt, you take a cube of salt, you throw it into water, it'll melt. Well, that's because salt also has exposed charges. It has chlorine and sodium, sodium positive, chlorine negative, and so the water charges attract the chlorine and sodium or repel them, and that back and forth action literally breaks up the bonds that holds the salt crystal together. And so water dissolves the salt. In the same way, the same way salt will dissolve ice, because if you look at ice, unless it's really, really, really cold, ice in the winter has a little layer of water over it. And then as you go deeper and deeper, it becomes less and less water, more and more slushy, and then to solid ice. It's only really, it's a really tiny little layer that we're talking about. But if you've got that water layer up there, that liquid water layer, and you throw salt on it, salt's got exposed positive sodium, it's got exposed negative chlorine ions, and those positive and negative charges also attract the water, and that starts this motion at a molecular scale, which literally breaks up the bonds that hold the ice. So water is this amazing thing. And so the difference in large and small raindrops is typically A, how much moisture is available in the environment, and then in case of a thunderstorm, once the downdraft starts, because the raindrops start falling, once the raindrops start evaporating, and each of those little raindrops is a little wake in behind it, you end up with a lot of turbulence, and that breaks up the big raindrops. So typically, if you've got enough moisture, you'll have big raindrops. If you have too many raindrops and they start to fall and there's a lot of turbulence, that turbulence breaks up the big raindrops, and so you get only small ones. And then the one other mention is that if you take a look at the forces involved, the force of attraction between the positives and negatives in water molecules is only so strong. Once there's enough turbulence in the air, and once it grows to a big enough size, so there's two ways that these big raindrops break up. Number one is that as they grow bigger and bigger, hang on just a second. Is this an emergency, Annie? Okay, hang on. I'm live on the air right now. So can you wait 20 minutes so I can call you back, or are you going to just call me when you? Go down. Yeah. Okay, what's the problem? I don't know. Okay, call me back when you get there. Okay. Okay, thanks. Bye bye. I'm sorry. It's my wife. She has to take one of our dogs to the emergency vet. So nothing really serious. He's just. He's got a problem. So, and she's going to call me back and let me know about that. So, get back to the water drops. So if you have enough moisture, you're going to get big water drops. But the water drops themselves, the electrical charges, the force of those electrical charges is only so strong. And as the water drop gets bigger and bigger, it starts to sag under the force of gravity, and eventually gravity wins out. That breaks up the big water drops. The other thing that breaks up big water drops is if they begin to fall and then you get all this turbulence, the force of the turbulence breaks them up. And so those are the two things that, and so the downdraft does play a part in taking big water drops and breaking them up into smaller water drops. Okay. So how was the rain? Rwanda, Rada Tibtani said, how's the rain in Cincinnati? Well, we had pretty much rain, had about a quarter to a half an inch in spots, but again, it was only spotty. Ricky Wallace says he's listening from work. Don't get yourself in trouble, Ricky, and I'll try not to distract you too much. Okay, Susan Wally, Coriel Horn says, just got on. What about the rain that's coming? Okay, well, the rain is actually on its way out. Let's go back to radar here real quick. Okay, so let's go to radar. Okay, so radar's coming up here. Let me check. I have to change software to make sure you can see it, Okay, it'll come up. There we go. Okay, so now you're looking at the radar full screen. So really, there is not much rain left. Right now, there's a little bit of shower activity from Ripley and Dearborn counties on over. Let's see. Let's just zoom into that so we can see it a little bit better. All right. Okay, so there you see a little bit of rainfall. Johnson is just south of Versailles, so the Johnson and Versailles area north along 421. That's heading south and eastward. There's a little bit more over Dearborn County, heading toward Bright, Lawrenceburg, and Greendale. And that's, it looks like that may end up being the last of it. It's going to move into the tri-state. All right. Yeah, it looks like that'll be about it. There may be a little bit more, but that's about it. You don't see anything else up to the north and west. And then if we zoom in to the southeast, you can see that that rain that's in southeast Indiana may make it back into parts of northern Kentucky, and then it's just about done in the southeast. So there's not much rain left. If you didn't get rain earlier, there's a good chance you're not going to get any rain yet, and then we're going to be pretty much rain-free for a few days. We are talking about probably Monday before we see scattered showers once again. So okay, so Garnet, I'm glad I answered your question, and if you ever have questions, I'm always glad to at least try to answer them. And if you come up with a question that I can't answer, I'm not gonna lie to you or anything. I'll say, hey, look, I don't know. I have to look something up, and then the next day or so I can answer that too. So, Susan Wally, Coriel Horn said, yeah, no rain in Blanchester again. Let me see. Let me watch radar again. Oh, it got so close though. Looks like it split and went right around Blanchester on radar there, Susan. Carla Wood, Carla, I'm not sure. I don't remember where you are, but you said no rain again either. I know it's just. Lynette Reed, another one. Where'd the rain go? Well, unfortunately, a lot of spots that needed it didn't get it this time, and that's exactly what summertime rainfall is all about. Carla Woods said her garden is looking really rough. You know, we were lucky at my house. I live right in the city in Madisonville, the eastern part of the city of Cincinnati, and we went, like 5 weeks without a drop of rain, and I kept my wife and I busy just watering. And then we've gotten like over 3 inches of rain in 3 weeks because the showers just tended to track over our house, so we were lucky. But I know everybody wasn't. Okay, Molly Purcell Pollock said, hello, Steve. We didn't get much of the rain today either. They do need water for their pond. Hope I had a good Wednesday. Yeah, I had a pretty good Wednesday, Molly. And she's from up around Stone Lick Lake. And so up that way, they haven't had much rain either. And I told you our meteorologist, Ethan Emery, his dad lives, I don't know how many acres it is, but it's quite a few acres, up in Highland County around Berrysville. And Ethan was saying his dad's pond is drying out too, so they need it quite a bit. Oh, please keep us updated on your puppy. Yeah, my wife sounded pretty upset. Archie's a dog we've had for quite a few years. He's getting up there. He's like almost 15 now. And he's been doing well, but every once in a while, you know how it is. Just like a person, when they get older, they'll go fine for a while, and then they'll show their age. And so he's been having some issues lately, but nothing really bad. So I'm just hoping this is, and we'll find out what happens. And Molly Purcell says the same thing. Archie's a great little dog. He really is. So I'm hoping he's okay too. But my wife will let me know as soon as the vet hospital gets a look at him. Do you think we're overdue for our 100-year storm? Frank Nelson wants to know. And in other words, she's talking about rain. Just curious, because my sister and I were talking about it today. She was wondering the same thing too. Okay, now what's really interesting is that a 100-year storm is just a statement of probability. In other words, if you look over the history of Cincinnati weather, and it's interesting because I've got records that go back to 1792 at Fort Washington, not every single day. And then, as a matter of fact, from January 1, 1814, all the way up through to the day, I have at least some weather records from every single day. There are a couple days missing, but some weather records from every single day. And so what a 100-year storm means, it doesn't mean that you can only get it once every 100 years. It means that if you look at the history of Cincinnati weather, a 100-year storm happens Only about once every 100 years. For example, it might be 8 inches of rain. That's just a number I pulled out of the air. It's not just a number I'm talking about. So if you are then talking about a 100-year storm, it's something you expect only once every 100 years. I mean, that's how extreme it is. And you know, we're due for something. We really are. We've the last time we had a hurricane come through was Ike, and that came through without any rain at all. And so, and you're not really due. Probability doesn't say, oh, it's been 200 years and so we are due. But you know, we haven't had a big wet season for a while. The last big rain event I remember around here was an event that, and I don't remember the dates. It was in Maysville, where there was some really intense flooding, not on the Ohio River, but on side streams. So they got like 5 or 6 inches of rain in a very short time. So, so yeah, we may very well be due for a big storm, but it would be nice if we got some rain. Don't want to get it all at once, but we definitely want to get some rain. So, okay, let's see what's the next comment here. So Daz Evans says, raining real good in West Union. Let's go ahead and take a look at what he's talking about. Now that comment came in about 4 minutes ago. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, so you can see what I'm talking about, back to radar full screen, then I'll do a box zoom here. Okay. And so that takes in, and so you can see that oh, look at that rain that came. Now it's still raining a little bit in West Union, but there was some heavy rain, some lightning, some thunder. Again, no severe weather, but a good soaker for a good portion of southern Adams County. So there's some good news there. Looks like not much rain fell in the community of Pink, but especially from West Union south to Concord, then along the Ohio River, looks like you got some pretty good rainfall there. So at least some people got some rain. I tell you what, I wish everybody would. Okay. Carla Woods says, on Route 124, Marshall in Highland County. Well, you know, Carla, I was talking to Ethan Emery today, and his dad's property is just southeast of Marshall. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, though, but so that's where Berrysville is. So let me go north here. Okay. So there's Hillsboro. There's Marshall right there. And, okay, I'm going to put this so I can point at it on the monitor so I can show you what I'm talking about here. Okay, so here's Marshall. There's 124 that you wanted to know about. Right over here is Berrysville at 70, right here on 73, where 73, I guess, makes the turn. Oh, that's 124. Wow, I can't figure these out. Okay, this is 124 here that goes that way. 73, and I don't know if 73 goes down. Yes, I don't know, but right here on 73 is Berrysville. So this is where Ethan Emery, our meteorologist, grew up, and she's asking about Marshall right there. So let me slow this down. Okay, I will have to reload it, and I'll step through it and let you see it full screen. All right. Okay, now I've got to zoom back in because the computer starts all over again. Okay, so there's Rocky Fork Lake. When I was a kid, I grew up in Loveland, and Loveland was a lot different than it is now. But for us, it was a big deal if we got to go to Rocky Fork Lake and do some swimming. I mean, that was an exotic vacation for us because that's, you know. So, okay, got to zoom in a little bit more to find Marshall and that. So, all right, so there's South Beach. Just to the south of South Beach, you find Marshall. Okay, so right there's Marshall, south of Rocky Fork. There's Berrysville. And let's say now. Okay, and I will... oh, look at that. Now, see the now look at the rainfall right there. Okay, there's Berrysville, and you can see the rain that you got in the red. So they got some good soaking rains in Berrysville with some lightning. And it looks like the rain started in the Berrysville area at about 4:54, and it rained in Berrysville until about, let's see here. until about 6:19, so a little bit more than about an hour and 25 minutes of rainfall. And then if you look at Marshall, okay, so right there you see a little rain come through Marshall. Now I don't know how far north or south you live on 124, but Harriet's on that map. And so, so Marshall down to Harriet got some rain. That, according to radar, was about 4:55. Okay, and then it dried out. Then you got a little bit more light rain. Then it got a little heavier. That didn't last long, just a couple minutes right there along Route 124. And then you had just a little bit of sprinkle activity, and then it's over. So if we look now, we zoom out, there just isn't much more coming your way. So the stuff that's over southeast Indiana, the stuff that is, okay, let me turn on my marker here. This stuff does not look like it's going to make it over to Highland County, and you can see there's nothing else coming in. So I think you're done with it. But what we can do, I can, let me do another box zoom here, zoom back in to the area we were just talking about. And we've got a setup now. This is a setup that Ethan Emery did, the guy from Highland County. And let's see if I can find, I just have to find it. Velocity, hail. I can give you what radar estimates the rainfall. Okay, rainfall. Oh, I think that's rainfall rate. I might have hit the wrong one here. Okay, yeah, it's rainfall rate. Okay, and then we're coming up to, okay, the radar hasn't processed the new one yet. Notice it doesn't show any accumulated rainfall in the area in the last 12 hours. That's because it hasn't gotten through the system yet. But if I look, I've got a different way of looking at this for you. I can look on an app called Radar Scope. Oh, what? There it goes. It's processed now. Okay, now let's zoom back in. Okay, it just took a little while for it to process. Okay, so okay, so there's Marshall. We can do a now. This is a radar estimate for you. God, I forgot who I was even talking to. Give me a second. I apologize. Carla Wood. So Carla, this is a radar estimate for you of the rainfall right there along 124, okay, just south of Marshall. And let's see, it says about 0.2 of an inch, so just less than a quarter inch. If you go, and if you would go down to where 73 is, just near Jessup, that was 1.8 inches. So I think you missed a good amount of rainfall by just a short distance. Let's see one more time here. Okay, there, I've got it. Okay, so so Marshall got about 0.2 of an inch. Berrysville, just right there on 73, just south of Berrysville, was about 0.4 of an inch. So that's closing in on ½ an inch. But so you got 0.2 of an inch. It's certainly not enough to help, but it's certainly enough to settle the dust there, Carla, and not much coming. So. Oh, and Garnet Rothfuss says, get well soon, Archie. Yeah, we hope so. Archie's a special guy. Just a great little dog that does his own thing, never causes any trouble. You take him to the dog park. I used to go really early in the morning to avoid the crowds. And we get there, and the dog park I go to, it's got like 2 5-acre sections. And so the perimeter of it and inside the chain link fence is big. And he would just start at one side and walk all the way around the perimeter, sniffing stuff and doing what dogs do and minding his own business. So I'm hoping Archie's okay too. Okay, in the late 70s, okay, Frank Nelson said, to give you some thought on the idea about a heavy rainstorm, back in the late 70s, the west side of Hamilton got 10 inches of rain in 1 hour, and the whole west side was flooded, and everything was just an absolute mess. Okay, you know what? I can probably find something out about that. Let's see. Give me 1 second. And oh, it's almost 8 o'clock. I got to get going here in a couple seconds. So. Not 1913, 1959. Okay, let's see here. According to Wikipedia, no, it doesn't have there. I'll have to look into it and see if I can find that out about a rain event like that. And of course, that's long before we have much in the way of radar data. So we'd have to just count on cooperative observers. Carla Woods says, good fishing at Rocky Fork. Des Evans said as of a few minutes ago, it's still raining in West Union. Good, Des. I hope you get as much as you need. Any predictions on hurricanes from Kerry Freeland? Yeah, Kerry, the Hurricane Center, and I concur, said that there'll probably be almost a record number of named storms. The idea is there was a lot of last year too, but most of them just stayed out to sea, so they didn't make a lot of news, and you didn't hear a lot about them. But probably a record number of hurricanes this year. They may a lot stay out to sea, but we'll have to keep an eye on it because hurricane season, even though it kicks in generally in June, sometimes just a little bit earlier, doesn't really get wound up until we get into August and September. And so it might be a very active August and September, and we'll have to watch that. But everything says it'll probably be very active. Okay, man, I have got to go. I've got some things that need to be done. So that's it for now. I hope you enjoyed the presentation. Hope anytime you have weather questions, I'll do my best to answer them right away. And hope you join me again tomorrow back here at 7:15. At noon tomorrow, it'll either be Ethan Emery. No, it will be Ethan Emery. Ethan Emery will be on at noon tomorrow. He'll have a 20-minute show then. I'll be back on at 7:15. And then on the weekends at 11 a.m. Saturday and Sunday, we've got a half-hour streaming weather show that's live. And at 6 p.m., Ethan Emery's got his. It's a half-hour streaming weather show that's live. And both of those go longer if necessary. And we don't cut it off right at a half hour. If there are enough questions and comments, we try to take care of everybody's questions. So that's it for now. I thank you once again for watching. Please join me again and have yourself a nice night and get ready to enjoy some really nice weather to be outside.